Hey guys, thank you so much for subscribing to our content and for supporting our content. If you've not done so already, please do subscribe, share, and like our videos. Today I'm chatting to Nakedi Ramaphakela, and she is the CFO of one of the investment companies. She's a non-executive director. She's done so much in her career. I think you're gonna enjoy this conversation as we tap into, her career journey. One exciting thing I think we should mention up front is that she was part of the CFO competition comprised of some heavy hitters in the industry. And for someone who's as young as her to feature on that, I think is just phenomenal. Nakedi, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you, thanks Jabu. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. As I mentioned, your career journey is one of those inspiring, careers. You are a CA, you're a CFA charter holder. I wouldn't be surprised if you're pursuing something else right now, but yeah, you've done very well in your career. Congratulations.
No, thank you very much. I always, it's always amazing to think back to all the things you've done. But thank you very much. It's always, I don't know, my life is always about learning and growth. So I guess it's just a testament to that sort of philosophy. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And did you think you would be a CFO at this point in time?
No, funny enough, before this interview, I was trying to reflect a little bit. I was trying not to overthink it, but to at least to reflect back. And I think, I've always worked hard and I've always never set a goal on a title per se. I've always sort of wanted to learn and grow, and where that led me, I had never really envisioned where that would lead. And so it was never really part of the plan, but I guess the hard work and the dedication, led to that. So even when I first got appointed as an FD, I think I was 28 at Ramaphakela Holdings, it really wasn't, it wasn't part of the vision board at that point. It was unexpected, and I felt unprepared for it, but it happened. And so I think it's just a testament to hard work and having people that actually believe in you. So yeah.
Let's stop there. To be an FD at 28, I think it's a phenomenal achievement. What did the company see in Nakedi that they felt we can actually entrust her with this role, even though she's 28?
So what had happened actually at Ramaphakela, it was a very funny story. I was there, they recruited me from PwC, so I was working at PwC, and while I was on secondment, they kept asking me, would you join? So eventually I joined them, and then I was working for them for 3 years and had worked under 3 CFOs, so it was sort of like someone would leave and I would act, and someone would leave and I would act, and someone would leave, and eventually I think after the third acting role, they decided to give me the role, so I got promoted. So I think at the time when I was acting, I took on the role of we need to get this done. We need to get the work done. And I owned it, So I think it was a nice sort of way to prove yourself. And hence, they saw the potential. And I think at the time I still had a lot to learn. But I think they saw the potential in that I was able to handle the team during the time of my acting. And so they gave me the role. It was terrifying. And I thought, the typical imposter syndrome of, how could they give me this role? Don't they know I don't know what I'm doing? But I think it was a fantastic opportunity, and it really just catapulted my career. It made a significant difference, and there was sort of no turning back from there.
Yeah, it certainly has. You're speaking about imposter syndrome. A role like that, I'm not surprised you would even have that imposter syndrome. But how did you convince yourself, actually, I can do this, I'm ready for this, this is the right decision?
I don't know, I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in God, and that is my guiding light through life. So for me, it's always praying about something, and I think your spirit, your soul sort of gives you feedback, whether something is the right move or not. So So I followed that message. I prayed about it, but I spoke to, obviously you speak to your parents, you speak to your partner. I'm married, so you speak to your husband, and everyone supports you in that decision. And you're never fully ready. So that's just one thing about life, right? Opportunities present themselves, and you take it on, but you're never gonna feel ready. It's almost like having a child. Like you're never gonna be ready. You're never gonna be ready for anything. So I think when the opportunity presents itself, you leap and you take a leap of faith and you put your all into it, and then see where that leads you. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but in the long term, when you look at the trajectory, it's actually upward sloping. So for me, that's always how I approach life. Is you're never ready. There's always uncertainties. You're never going to feel ready for anything, to be honest. And where you are nervous and when something scares you, I think that's when you must take the leap, because that's where the growth is going to come from.
Wow.
So I found myself in spaces where, I'm the youngest. Sometimes I'm the only black person. Sometimes I'm the only female.
Wow.
Sometimes I'm all three, So I find myself in these spaces consistently. And for me, I always ask myself, okay, God, what is the lesson in this? And perhaps my calling lies somewhere in that, because that's how you figure yourself out in life. That's how you figure out your purpose, is by the opportunities that life puts you in, the challenges that life puts you in, and how you overcome. So for me, it's always, what is the lesson in this? Where's the growth in this? And I think somewhere in there, you kind of find yourself. So yeah.
I really love your perspective on that. You're mentioning that, in life, you'll probably never be ready for most big, great opportunities. But the truth is, you're still expected to deliver, right? Although you don't feel ready. When you reflect back on that first, promotion to FD, how did you make sure you live up to the expectation? What support maybe the company gave you? What external learning did you pick up to make sure that you do become ready?
So once you're in the role, you're still not that ready for it, to be honest. And like I always say, life is really a constantly learning journey. When I got the role, I didn't have anyone who came in and gave me the toolbox, to say, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to think. And also, I also didn't really seek the help that I needed initially. So initially it was really just struggling through a few things. But fortunately I had, people that were the previous CFOs to bounce things off of. So I think to have a good sort of mentorship around you, good mentorship around you is phenomenal, because you will get those challenges where you need someone to talk to that is not your boss, that is not a board member, that you can tell situations without giving away too much, because we deal in spaces where we deal with a lot of confidential information. So where you can give people the situation and they can help you out. So I think mentorship was one thing. So having that support system. I think having your family around you is very important. They're always, the sounding board. Sometimes we think, our parents don't know specifically what we do, but they have a lot of wisdom, and they can give you a lot of advice around how to navigate situations. I think it's important to choose the right life partner. And fortunately for me, I was blessed with the right life partner, and I'm able to get the support that I need from him to work through life. But also, I think at the time, I think my boss was also, she created that environment, that enabling environment. Firstly, she believed in me, and then she entrusted me with a very, very important role that gave me, a sense of confidence as well that I could do it. And the board members that we had as well, I always felt supported. I didn't feel like, it was me against them. I always felt supported, and I feel blessed for that opportunity. And they spoiled me a little bit, because they spoiled me with good leadership, because then everywhere I go, I kind of expect it, and it's not always the case. So, so yeah, I think it's a combination of factors. You are never an island. You can never say that you've done things on your own. And I think the other thing is constantly learning, constantly growing. So I'm somebody who's always sort of introspective and reflective. And in that, I always say, okay, where can I improve? And so I went, at the time I didn't have my CFA, so I decided, I needed to bridge the gap of my investment knowledge. So I went and did my CFA, so that helped as well. You read a lot, you go on training, you go on courses that also empower you to do more, but also you work hard and you try your best. And I think competence is also very important. And if you don't know how to do something, always ask someone that has done it before, because that at least helps you. That at least helps you. So yes, yeah.
Fantastic. When you speak of FD, CFO, to the general public, most people think, well, this is the money person. But what does a CFO or FD do? What were your responsibilities at the time? Well, you can even use now as an example.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think, people always think CFO is the money person. And I think historically, yes, the CFO was always sort of the money and the reporting person. It's like, these are the results, what's the budget? Yes, historically that was a CFO role. That currently that is evolving. And it's an exciting space to be in currently, because I've never been attracted to a role where I'm just responsive, I just report on things that have happened, and I give you a set of financial statements, and then it's happened, so what, So I think that traditional CFO role has evolved, and currently where CFOs, we are financial leaders, we provide financial leadership to the company, and I think where we are at this point is really to advise, around the financial aspects of the company's strategy. So that's where I see CFOs going, but also you'll see a lot of CFOs now, sort of the hybrid between technology and systems and finance, and how do you get your results out as quickly as possible, analytics, adaptive analytics, all these interesting concepts of saying, how do I make sure that the business gets their results as quickly as possible, as accurately as possible, so that we can make decisions like literally on the go. So I think the role of the CFO has evolved from just being responsive and traditionally reporting to really being in the forefront of the company strategy and enabling the business to make critical decisions, but really obviously focused around the finances as well. You had
a supportive environment, in your first role as an FD. You said you were spoiled with the leadership. But of course, you moved on from there to take up, another CFO role. What was the attraction for that sort of progress in direction,
the move
out of there?
I think, in every sort of opportunity, at some point it reaches a point where you sort of want a little bit more. And at the time, I had felt like I wanted to get a little bit more into sort of more of the deal-making space. But the environment that I was in, although it was fantastic, it was just not set up in that way. So I'd wanted an opportunity that was maybe a little bit more entrepreneurial, that was going to allow me to have a little bit more of the exposure to the deal-making space, and give me another sort of experience from what I was used to. And so that's what attracted me to the role. And reflecting a little bit on it, I made the move and it wasn't the right one. And I'm very upfront about it in that I think people think life is always perfect. We always make the right decisions, we always make the right moves, but we don't. So I think for me, I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was an important lesson. So I see it as an important lesson in my career and how I make decisions in future. I made the move. I probably didn't do much of a due diligence around the culture and whether I'm a good fit for the culture. I think the company itself is fantastic, but it was not a good fit for me. So I was there, I think, for just over 12 months. And it was a situation where I kind of felt like I'm betraying myself, it's not good, I feel like your intuition always gives you feedback. Your emotions give you feedback, your body gives you feedback. So if you're waking up every day and you don't feel like getting out of bed, and then that's feedback to say maybe this is not the right place for you. And so I made the decision to leave and take a little bit of time off, which was also interesting.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And then you moved because you felt it was not, best fit for you.
Yeah.
How do you then ensure that the next place you're going to is actually the right fit?
Yeah.
Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think you need to do your thorough sort of due diligence. So firstly, for me, it's just when you walk into an environment and a space, I don't know, I'm a huge believer in energy. The energy that you feel there, be very mindful of that. And, do you feel a sense of excitement? You see people walking around from the reception, do you feel, firstly, do you feel a source of an energy that excites you, or does it sort of depress you? So I think that's feedback. But secondly, you'll meet the people, you'll go through the interview. But I think it's important, even after the interview, if you can, to call up a few people that work within the environment. Try and get a sense of the culture. What type of culture is it? Ask the right questions, even in your interview, ask the right questions around culture, how they see things, is there flexibility, is there not? And see whether that fits in with your goals and your dynamics. And I think, I speak from a place of privilege because also, you are you're kind of now working in the sort of the C-suite type of role. So you've got freedom to ask for a coffee with the CEO even before you take on the role, but not everybody has that opportunity. Right? So I have to acknowledge that, we are privileged, in what we have. But I think you can call up people and see if you can find someone who works within the company and have a call with them, have a coffee with them and ask, and these days we've got platforms, we've got LinkedIn, send someone a message, they might not respond, but at least you tried, So don't be afraid to do those kind of things, just to test the culture, because I think the work itself, a lot of people can do the work. The problem comes in the people dynamics and navigating the environment, and whether it fits you and your work style and your goals as well. So I think it's important to really just think through and if you want to write it down and see if it ticks most of your boxes, because there's no environment that's perfect and that's going to tick all your boxes. But at least, you should be able to wake up every day and not feel like I don't want to get out of bed.
No, that's very true. And tell us, you mentioned the C-suite. How is it being in the C-suite?
It is. I think it's an honor, to be honest. You look back. I don't know. I don't always look at myself as this very important person because I've always felt, you can lead anyway without a title. You don't need a title to lead. So I think it's definitely an honor, and I think people sort of view it more importantly than it is an important role, but people really elevate it to a point where it's something like you're not human or whatever, whereas we are just human beings, just happen to have very important titles. But I think it's certainly an honor, but it's an honor that comes with a huge amount of responsibility. And it's also sometimes difficult to fully own it, especially if you're young. But I think it's a privilege, and I feel blessed. But also comes with its responsibilities, and you've really got to work hard, and you've got to be accountable for your actions.
And do you find then you don't sleep enough hours? You're always overworking because of this big responsibility. Is there a work-life balance in the C-suite?
There is. I think it depends what work-life balance is for you, and there is a lot of time commitment. I won't lie, but I think I don't know. It's never gonna be perfect. You're never gonna have the perfect balance of life, and things are seasonal. So you'll get times when you are heavily busy, and you literally don't have time, to yourself and your family and all of that. But you get times where things kind of slow down and you can kind of take a break. But it is busy, but it's also up to you to sort of manage, that bit of balance. For example, I'm a mom, I've got kids, I've got 3 beautiful girls. My kids are still young.
Yeah.
So that presents a very unique challenge for me
Yeah.
in trying to find that necessary balance. But I've got help, I've got support, you know, I've got, you know, I've privilege. At least I have a nanny, you know, who can help me, you know, as well, who can take care of my kids while I work. But what I try to do is during the week, at least dinner, you know, be around the dinner table. So I try and drop my kids off at school firstly. And then I'm working obviously all day, and then in the evenings I try to at least sit down and have family dinner with them as well, put them to bed, and if I've got a bit of work to do afterwards, I'll do it. I try to get at least 6 hours of sleep. You know, it doesn't always work, especially if your kids are small. You know, you don't get much sleep.
They wake you up at night also.
They wake you up at night as well. And at least 2 or 3 times a week I try to get to the gym. So at least have those little bits of, you know, time to yourself, you know, family time. And then on weekends I really dedicate that mostly to family, and I try to be fully present, because it's not really about the quantity, it's about the quality. So it's about the quality of time. You could be with your kids like for, you know, the whole day, but you're miserable and you're shouting at them, and it's not actually valuable time that you have with them. So I try to spend my weekends, you know, mostly with kids, and during the week it's like full on, like work mode.
Fantastic. That's awesome. I know you're also a non-executive director at one of their companies. Can you tell us about that? What does it entail? Why did you decide to take that on in addition to all the other responsibilities you have?
So I mean, currently I've resigned from most of my non-executive director roles, but at the time, so I did mention that I did take a bit of time off from work, and then I took on a sort of a consulting role for a while I was trying to figure out my next move. And fortunately, you know, I found myself in spaces where I've always kind of had opportunities. So when I resigned from Ramaphakela, there were some companies that asked me to stay on as a non-exec. So I was representing, obviously, Ramaphakela at the time on those boards, and then when I left, they'd asked me to remain on those boards. So I stayed on those boards, and really the what that entails is really doing what's best for the company. If I can put it in the most simplest form, being a non-executive director is providing leadership to the business, providing accountability for the business, because governance is essentially about accountability. It's really about having layers and layers of people that are watching to make sure that, you know, the people below or at the different levels are doing the right things. So it's really mostly about just making sure that you are doing what's best and what's sustainable for the business long term, because a business is a very serious thing. You know, a business has employees, you know, earn salaries, they feed their families, which is very, very important. Companies work within communities, you know, they work, you know, in environments where, you know, they need to provide, you know, a sustainable living for people, you know, where they're not polluting, you know, their surroundings, where people actually live and wake up every day, and, you know, you're polluting the air, polluting the water. So you need to make sure that, you know, you're doing things responsibly, and you're a responsible citizen. And as a director, you need to make sure that that happens. You know, there's things, you know, there's challenges around labor. You need to be fair to people around labor, around how you pay people. You know, as directors, you need to check on that, but also the finances as well. You have to make sure that companies are reporting the accurate numbers, the systems, everything, the processes that are there, you know, are enabling all of those things to happen. And it's very difficult because at times, you know, you don't see everything. But I think if you've got the right management team, you've got the right people at that level, then it kind of cascades down. So it's a very important role, and it's also a very risky role, as you know.
You have to get like insurance in case.
You have to have directors' insurance, liability, and all of that. There's all sorts of penalties and liabilities if you don't do the right things. So I think it's a very important job, and I don't take it for granted at all.
Awesome. And when you left this other company, because of the fit, you didn't have a role lined up as yet, so you had to go do this consulting.
No, I didn't. You know, obviously I was talking to people. I've always had, like I've said, I've been blessed with opportunities, and I think it's probably because I believe you must bloom wherever you're planted. So wherever you are, you must always work hard and you must always do your best to fulfill the responsibilities that you've been entrusted with.
Yeah.
So I've always done that, and I think fortunately because of that and because of that work ethic, it's helped me have the next opportunity and the next opportunity. So obviously, yes, I didn't have anything solid and lined up, but I was talking to people around consulting roles and retainers. So there was something in the pipeline, and obviously I had these non-executive director roles that were helping as well. So it wasn't completely sort of, I'll see what happens. It wasn't, it wasn't, no, it wasn't completely that way. It was, I always have a plan.
Okay, no, brilliant. Yeah. And as a CFO, you're obviously a leader, as you said, financial leader providing advice. I believe, there's a team that you work with. How do you approach leadership generally?
No, I'm sort of more of a democratic type of leadership style, but it depends also on the people you find yourself working with, because sometimes you have that style, it doesn't fit everybody, because some people need to be micromanaged, where some people that freedom that you give them works. I prefer to give people the space. I prefer to be very open with people where they can come and tell me anything. But also that's also difficult because you have to not have an ego in that type of leadership style, because people will tell you things that they'll disagree with you at times, and that's okay. You have to be big enough to accept that. So really that's my leadership style, and I love to teach. So. I really love to empower people, but also to give them the right tools, to at least mentor them, and to teach, So it's not always about the work with me. It's always, you'll always hear me, asking you, what's your plans? 5 years from now, where do you see yourself? How do I help you? So that's the type of person that I am, and I try to always, leave a legacy in people's lives. Wherever I go, it works with some, doesn't work with others, because not everyone will like you. So that's just how it is. But even if you help one person, then you've made a difference in the world. So that's the type of leader that I am. But also I'm results driven, so you must perform.
Absolutely.
You must perform. So you can't float around not doing the work.
Awesome. And going back to RBH, what are some of the key outcomes, deliverables, projects, whatever the case may be, that you are most proud of, that you were able to drive to fruition before you left?
Yeah, no, there was quite a lot, and it started from the time when, even before I had the role of FD, I think when I got there, there was a lot of work around systems, and there was a lot of manual work that people were doing, right? That I felt like we shouldn't have so many people doing this, like taking half the month. So I think the great achievement was really around getting the systems to operate efficiently and effectively from the time I joined till the time I left, where we didn't have people doing a lot of manual work. The systems, we built the right systems that helped, and anybody who works in finance will understand what I mean. What I mean when I say systems, because you can be very frustrated. It could be, it's the difference between taking a whole month to report and taking 2 days to report.
Wow.
So for me, I think I was very proud of that. But also when I got my role, there was a lot around the accounting, and our chairman of audit committee was always saying, one version of the truth, because you can report one cash balance, 3 different cash balances, depending on who's doing the work, So he was always saying one version of the truth, and that speaks to your systems, your processes. And so for me, it was firstly getting the right team. So at the time, I think I was the only CA when I got the FD role, and I felt I needed to build up the team. So, I brought on more technical competencies. I brought on 2 additional CAs and, beefed up the technical competencies of the team. So that was a great success. And I think, the team went on to do amazing things. And even when I left, they were equipped. I left them equipped. So I didn't leave the company with a huge hole because I had the right people, really smart people. So I think for me that was a great success. But also I think the success for me was also a personal success, was really growing into the role, starting where I was this naive young person, who was always sort of asking for permission in the meeting and not really understanding, their role, to getting to a point where I trust myself and I'm a solid sounding board for some of the board members, because by the time I left, board members would call me asking me for advice, asking me how this operates, this works. And I think I don't take that for granted, because that showed that I was a very solid sounding board for them, and I was competent. So for me, I think that was certainly an achievement.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I think you mentioned earlier, closely to that point, you mentioned earlier that in some instances you find yourself as either the only female or only black or the youngest person in the room. How do you navigate those spaces? Because it can be a challenge.
Yeah, and for me, it started, I think the first time it started for me was when I did my articles at PwC, and I did my articles at PwC mainland, and I got there and I was so shocked. I was like, where are the black female managers? Like, and there was no one there. And initially there, initially I think when I started, I always almost felt like a victim, like, oh, why is the world like this? But I think as time went on, I started to think differently about it. I started to say, you know what, the quality of my work must speak for itself, So I really started to just apply myself and sort of silence the noise around me and focus on the work. And that helped a lot, because you'll get people who will look at you because of what you look like and who you are, but you'll get a lot more people that overlook that and see through the quality of what you do. And fortunately, while I was at PwC, I saw that that's a formula that actually works. Because most people in the world actually are good people. There's a few bad apples, but actually most people are good people. And I think that formula kind of worked for me, is when you find yourself in that kind of space where you feel like, I don't fit in, apply yourself, focus on the work, try and silence all that noise, focus on the mission at hand, and I think the quality will speak for itself, and people will really see through, what you look like, how young you are, and all of that. It doesn't always work with everyone, I just have to caveat that, but most of the time I think it works.
That's fantastic. How did you decide, or why did you decide to become a CA, going back to your earlier years? How did you choose, this is the right stream for me to pursue?
It's very funny, because I'm not sure. I think about it a lot, and I think I'm not sure, because I grew up in the township, in Mamelodi, in Pretoria, and obviously I was fortunate enough, I went to a decent school, my parents took me to a decent school, and I always looked around me. I just remember always, like, in those days there was a show called Top Billing, right, on TV. And every time I looked at Top Billing, I was just like, I want that life for myself, because people were always traveling, there was the nice houses, and I was just like, no, that's my life, So it started more being, it's sort of a material thing that inspires you to say, you need to make a lot of money. And then for me, it was just like, what kind of job can I get, where I can get all this money? And I knew that, medicine was not for me, definitely not for me. So it was like, oh, do I do law? Or do I do accounting or computer studies? At the time, I always, wanted that. But I somehow gravitated towards accounting. I think there was someone from WITS that came to our varsity and started talking through all the different degrees, and the accounting resonated with me. And so, I took that on, and I've never regretted it, and I've never looked back.
Some people would say, the accounting auditing stream may not be as exciting as maybe some other fields. Is that what you found as well, or different story in your case?
I've had ups and downs in my career around whether this is the right thing or not. But I think I know now with absolute clarity that I'm in the right space. Perhaps it doesn't seem as exciting from the outside, but I think it's what you make of it. Definitely it's what you make of it. So for example, for me, it's exciting to to come into an environment where, there's perhaps no systems, everything is being done manually, to come in and to start from scratch on a blank canvas and build a system from scratch and get to a point where everything is automated. For me, that's exciting, and for me, accounting is also not just accounting. It actually opens up doors to a lot of other things.
Yeah. Fantastic. And you obviously decided you wanted to add on to that with a CFA charter. What you mentioned you did that because you're working in an investment space.
It's a qualification that's equipping you for a broad sort of career in finance. So it touches on obviously the accounting aspects. It touches on tax, which is very important. It touches on auditing. And it does touch a little bit on the corporate finance and investment stuff, but it's not really specialist in nature. So it's kind of trying to build a holistic type of finance individual, and not necessarily a specialist, right? Whereas with the CFA, it's very much a specialist qualification. It's investment focused. So it really zones in on the investment side. And some of the stuff you do when you do your CA, but not in as much depth as you do them in your CFA. So it's a specialist qualification, I would say, and one that you do when you are certainly sure that you want to work within the investment space. Otherwise, then you would be wasting your time.
Brilliant. You mentioned earlier that, or I mentioned that you were part of a CFO competition, comprised of big hitters like Ralph, Jason, Quinn, the big guys in the industry. Talk to us about that experience. How did you make it into the list? It's a prestigious competition.
I don't know. I got nominated by someone who I still don't know to this day.
Seriously? Wow.
Who nominated me. So I just got a phone call to say, you've been nominated. Do you accept the nomination? And it's funny you ask, because I always try and be as honest as possible with people, because people sometimes look at us and think we are these perfect individuals, successful, but actually we are all human beings.
Absolutely.
At the time, I was going through a lot. I think I was going through that uncertainty around my next steps, but also I think I was kind of questioning my life as to, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Is this my purpose? And every now and then you get those kind of questions. And I was also about to leave Ramaphakela, but I was nominated for my role at Ramaphakela. So also I wasn't sure if I wanted to accept the nomination. So I took a few days to think about it. I think, like a week or so to think about it. And I spoke to my boss at the time. She said, oh no, this is phenomenal. Accept it. I eventually accepted it. But the funny thing about that, it speaks to something within me that has always had a lack of self-esteem. People look at you and see you as this confident person, but actually, at the time, I just felt like, no. So I got it, but I walked into it feeling like I'm definitely not going to win. That type of feeling. And I think that was a very important lesson for me, because I will never betray myself like that again. In not believing in myself and my capabilities, and not believing in the success despite having proven the success. So I think that was a very critical lesson when I look back on that, because I walked into it from a place of lack and not abundance. So I had already felt like I'm not going to win. So I was just like, let me just go through the motions. Even when I walked into the interview, because you get interviewed, I walked in, I kind of faked my way through the interview because I didn't feel confident. Yes, I just didn't feel confident. I didn't feel like I was going to win, and I don't feel like I was worthy. I think maybe that's the right term. I didn't feel worthy, and I'm not sure where that was coming from. And I've had, I think over the past sort of few years since then, have worked a lot more on myself and my self-belief, and I'll never do that again.
Great stuff. And the competition, what exactly are they looking for?
Yeah,
these nominees?
so it's the CFA Awards, and really it's to try and acknowledge and to honor like finance excellence. So there's different aspects of it. I think I was nominated for probably the Young CFO Award because I was quite young at the time.
Yeah.
And I think the Transformation Award. So it's really it really honors finance excellence. So if you've done amazing things within your space, if you've done a turnaround strategy within your business, if you've built like a world-class team and they're doing great things within the finance space. So it's meant to really just honor people within the space of finance, which I think CFOs always sort of get the I don't know, the short end of the stick, because when things go wrong in a business, they don't ask you who was the CEO. They're always like, who's the CFO? Because so much is expected of us, you know. So I think it's great that just to recognize the hard work that we do. And sometimes we are always kind of in the background because some of the work that we do is not always visible. But once you pull the plug on some of the good things we do, things fall apart. So it's those things where people don't really notice them because they're not always visible. But when you don't do them, things fall apart. So that's our role as CFOs, and I'm glad the awards really honor that and acknowledge that.
Awesome. What in addition to the interview, what other aspects does the competition look for? Do you have to I don't know, present a case study or whatever? Yeah,
so in that, all that happens there is that I think you should have been a CFO for at least a year in your role. So you need to show tangibly the things that you've done.
Yes.
Right? And whether those warrant you winning or not. So it's really the questions that they ask you around, tell us what you've done and how you've done it, And really, that is what determines whether I guess you win or not. It's really around what you've done. So and I mean, if you look back at some of the winners and the things that they've done, phenomenal. They've turned around businesses. They've taken businesses from nothing to something. So it's really around what you have done already and not what you plan to do.
Yes.
And so you must be able to articulate it in the best way possible. So sometimes in life, I think we don't actually look back on what we've done. And I think now what I've started to do is actually to just journal everything that I do and also just journal some of the little wins because they build up into the big wins. So I think it's a nice tool for yourself if you struggle with looking back and seeing what you've done well and speaking around what you've done well, is to just write things down and then maybe after a while reflect back.
Awesome. Take us back to Mamelodi. When you were growing up, how was it like? What was Nakedi like those days?
Yes. No. I mean, I grew up with both my mom and dad around me. Fortunately, I have one younger sister, so it was the four of us in the house. But we always had family coming to live with us. Family from Limpopo, like a cousin, who's trying to get into, university or whatever. But so we've always kind of had that around us. Looking back, it was fun, man. Being a child was fun in those days. You were playing on the streets, you were playing with your friends, and I remember I just loved to play, like run around and always coming back home and your parents asking you, where's the sun? And smacking you, smacking you because, you came home after sundown. But it was fun, man. It was really fun.
Brilliant.
I kind of envy those days sometimes when I look at my kids because, there's so much crime these days. It's not that safe. And our kids don't get time, and with COVID as well, to play with other kids on the street. But it was fun, and it built your social skills. You had to navigate your way, especially if you didn't have an older sister or an older brother. You were the oldest,
You have to chart the path.
Yes, you have to chart the path, and it teaches you a lot. So I think we had a wonderful childhood.
Brilliant. Any parting words before we wrap up?
No, just to say, thank you very much. I think it was a lovely conversation. I was very nervous about it, but hopefully I've imparted a little bit of inspiration and tools for people to use. And just to say to people, life is not perfect. It was never meant to be perfect. it's really, life is really about growth and lessons. So if you look at your life and always, approach it from a point of being a victim, then it will always, give you situations that turn you into a victim. But I think you need to sort of own your life, take control of it, and look at it as a challenge that is teaching you something, and helping you to grow and move on to the next sort of challenge. So life is never going to be perfect. It was never meant to be perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and so never doubt yourself when you go through that.
I think that's brilliant advice. And I should ask this, what is the next big chapter for Nakedi?
I think the next big chapter for me is really becoming a fully fledged CFO, I think, with a view of one day becoming a CEO. So that is my big dream, and really right now I'm in the learning phase of that, in view of that next role. It can be 5 years from now, it can be 10 years from now, but one day it will come. So I'm building myself small steps towards that.
Awesome. All the best with that. I have no doubt you'll get there. So we'll be watching this space. Thank you so much, Nakedi. Really appreciate you taking the time to chat to us.
Thank you so much.